Hey, we got a great show for you today. Our friend Anthony ARILLOTTA is coming up here from Springfield. Anthony's been on the show before. He's a former capo from the Genovese family in New York, and one-time boss of Springfield. And we got a few topics we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about Frank SCIBELLI, Skyball, the original boss, one of the original bosses down there in Springfield, Massachusetts. Bruno, the Billy Grasso murder. We'll talk a little later about his ceremony. So we got a lot of stuff we're going to cover today. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Thank you. Hey, welcome back. I'm back here with Anthony ARILLOTTA, our good friend from Springfield, Mass. Anthony, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Bobby.
All right. You know, since you've been on the show, I got a lot of comments. They want to know a lot more about that area, more about Frank SCIBELLI, Skyball. I think he said he took over in the 80s down there.
He did, yeah.
Bruno, and some of the characters that we want to talk about.
Yeah.
And your rise coming up there. You know, when I met you in the 90s, you were with the Genovese guys.
Yeah.
Which I was a little jealous of. I wanted to come in my crew. And I met Al and all those guys.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about Frank because Skyball. When I was running around and in charge up in Boston, he was the boss down in Springfield. And everybody had all great things to say about Frank. What could you tell us more about him?
So when you were running around and when you were running around in Boston with the patriarchs, or when you were running around with
The Philly guys.
Around the late 80s?
Yeah, well, that was, I came back in 90, and then I started hooking up with the Philly guys about 95, 96, I think it was.
So Skyball, he took over for Big Nose Sam Kafari in, I think, 84.
84, okay.
And he became the boss of our area. Captain in the Genovese family, and you know, he deserved it. He was a vicious little guy. Did his thing with the Mafia for years. Big money guy. And he was, like I said, a little vicious. He was only 5'5", I think.
Yeah. Well, those little guys are really something.
Yeah.
You know.
He was, son. He was.
Because what I seen, I mean, how long has the Genovese actually been in that area? They've been in that area. He grew up with those people, didn't he? He's from that area.
I want to say their history goes back to the early 1900s.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if that was Genovese the whole time from the 1900s, but I know in our area, Springfield, Western Mass, there was a Mafia presence going back to the early 1900s.
Yeah, that's when all the Black and all them guys came over.
So there was a big presence.
Right.
And there was, right up the 20s, going up into the, I think Sam started coming around in the 50s. I think, he was originally from New York, and he came up, and I want to say then, I really don't know when the Genovese, maybe around that time.
Yeah, well, that's about that time. You got to remember, after the Valachi papers and everything, they started calling it the Genovese family.
There was a big, and I think the number 2 or 3 guy, Mike Miranda, he was a Genovese guy, and so I think it was right around that time when their presence was in the Springfield area.
Yeah, and like I said, we know that Patriarcha took over his family in the 50s, and I'm sure all these guys are all running around with each other. They all knew each other.
Raymond Patriarcha, the old man. I mean,
Raymond was born in Worcester, but they moved to Rhode Island when he was a child, and he did a lot in Rhode Island. We know that the office was down there. The way he came up there but very powerful and influential in Boston.
Yeah.
And took over the New England family in the 50s after Joe Lombardi retired. And it's history ever since then
Yeah.
with him. And, you know, but the Springfield, nobody realizes the crew that the Genovese had down there and the power that they had
Yeah.
at one time. Now, I know what Skyball passed away in 2000 when I
Right
was
around
away.
2000, yeah.
When I
But
was
prior
away.
to that, he was taken down.
He was taken down.
Yeah. There was a, you know, the typical guys making beefs on him.
Yeah. That always happens.
You know,
On a good guy.
Bruno was,
Yeah.
you know, behind it, and he wanted the position.
Yeah.
Making beefs that Frank's getting a little old, not, you know, maybe getting a little forgetful with things, but the thing was, they didn't give it to Bruno, they gave it to Skyball's brother.
You're right.
Baba
Yeah.
ended up
Baba,
getting the position. Yeah, so Frank had it from like, he had a, you know, a long run. I mean, he had it
Yeah,
for,
he had a
you
good
know,
run.
I think Baba took over in right around 96,
96 he took over.
right around there.
Yeah.
96, 97, 96 I would say,
Yeah.
because he straightened out this kid, Emilio Fusco.
I remember
straightened out.
that.
Yep.
I remember
And,
that,
so I want to say right around 96, and Bab ended up becoming the boss, which is Skyball's brother. He was
Mhm.
more of, Skyball was more violent, more, you know, had a more fearful reputation. Baba was more of like a racketeer, more into business,
Right.
dressed well, went out to the restaurants, enjoyed his life.
Yeah.
They both enjoyed it, but, you know,
Yeah.
was more, less violent and more of like a racketeer type.
Now, when I was coming in,
Skyball was like a gangster.
yeah,
Baba
yeah,
was like a more of a,
he was a gangster's gangster.
and Baba was more of a organized crime.
It's like comparing John Gotti to Paul Castellano.
Yeah, I would say. I mean,
I'm saying in personalities.
yeah, something
Yeah.
similar. Yeah.
Yeah. So then, now in the late '90s, you know, I got picked up in '99.
Okay.
Baba was the boss down there, and when did our Bruno become the boss? In 2000?
So he, Baba was grooming Anthony DeLabo, which is
Okay.
another soldier with us up there, and they were going to pass it off to Anthony was going to take over. Baba was going to step back,
Okay.
like sort of retire.
Mm-hmm.
DeLabo, Anthony was going to become the boss. He was being groomed.
Okay.
And what happened was they got arrested in a big indictment. I think there was about 8, 10, 12 dozen of them. They got indicted in 2000.
Mm-hmm.
Racketeering, loan sharking, extortion. And so it was pretty much that Baba, DeLabo, Fusco, that whole crew.
Yeah.
So it's you know, with Baba getting old, DeLabo was going to get groomed. Now he's facing an indictment. That's how Bruno ended up getting the spot. I want to say 2001.
2001.
He ended up getting put in that spot.
Can you tell me a little more about Al's story? Because I heard a lot of things about Al. I heard he was an informant.
Well,
You
he
know,
was. I mean, he was brought in by the CHIBELLIs.
Yeah.
So back in the 70s, there was a district attorney, Matty Ryan. He was the local DA for the state.
Yeah.
And my friend's father was messing around with his daughter, and one thing led to another, and it was going to cause a lot of heat for the mafia, you know, the mafia in that Western Mass.
Right.
So what happened was, I don't know if he went to them, you know, probably to tell them to stay away from the daughter. You know, she was on drugs and whatever. Probably to give the guy a beating, you know, maybe. But this guy, you couldn't give him a beating. You had to kill this guy because he was a dangerous guy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what you know, they ended up killing him. They found him in the trunk of a car, and ever since then, they pretty much own the district attorney, Matty Ryan. Ever since then,
Yeah.
if you got in trouble in the, I've been in trouble, you know, numerous times. You would never get indicted. You know,
Right.
you would get indicted, but you get arrested. The charges would get dismissed. if you had investigations coming on you, they would go away.
Yeah.
Now that was if you were with the CHIBELLI and the Bruno faction.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Now if you was with the other guys, they had the other factions like, you know, the Puglianos, the Campiti was with them, Stone, them, you know, they were
Yeah.
more of the label was friendly on with them. Those guys would end up getting targeted by Matty Ryan.
Yeah.
So,
I
you know, there
understand.
was a lot of guys. There was another guy, he ended up getting deported back to Italy. They said it was because of Bruno's relationship with Matty Ryan.
Okay.
So you could see how it worked. They worked with the, they worked the system that way. Well, in other words, it was, they ended up clipping a guy,
Yep.
and now they're using that for their advantage to help people that was, that they wanted to help. You know, like if I had a lot of assault and batteries as a young kid, they would dismiss them. Drug cases, anything like that, a lot of, that was the undoing with Matty Ryan, because it came to the point where one of Baba's guys had a drug case. The case ended up going away. The guy couldn't take it. It caused a big stink with the with the newspapers, and they did stories on it. So the guy stepped down, and Matty Ryan ended up having to step down after that.
I see. See, the
So-
thing, nobody realizes with the mob that, gangsters work with the law all the time. I mean, I grew up in the neighborhoods with,
Right.
with guys that grew up with were
Right.
cops and detectives. Not that they did anything for
Right.
me, I'm not saying that, but they don't see and realize how close the politics, the law and everything is to the organized crime figures,
Yeah.
you know?
I think you need them. I think you need, but how far do you go with that?
Well, that's the problem.
You know.
I think maybe Al overstepped his bounds with some of that.
I mean, you help some friends, and
Yeah.
then the other friends you don't help.
Yeah.
So what is that? That's not really a good way.
No, it's not
like
good.
that.
It's like, in East Boston and, the guys I grew up with over there. Judge Stanziani was a judge in East Boston in a local court, and, a lot of people knew him, and a lot of politicians, and a lot of favors were done.
Right.
This is the way that
Back
we
then
work
you could
things.
do it. In the
You could do it. You
70s,
can't,
60s, 70s, 80s,
yeah.
judges, you would dismiss cases.
You can't, you can't now because
Yeah.
the feds are in the middle of everything, Anthony.
Right.
So they stopped all
And they
of
make
that.
a lot of money. Judges make too much money now.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
a judge isn't going to throw a case.
I'm not even saying that Judge Stanziani was bribed or anything else, but he was a neighborhood guy. He knew all the guys, and you could catch a break with him, basically.
And we had judges like that in our area. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that they took money, but they were friends of a friend or a family.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how things work. Even,
Well, I was with the old man Ruggiero. We were in Arizona together, in prison, and he was a Genovese.
he was a Ray. He was a captain.
You know
of
Ray?
this, Yeah.
Yeah, great guy, old man.
Yeah.
And he told me, he said, Bobby, listen, they called me from New York, and they said, take everything from Al.
Yeah.
Al had investments with Ray down there
Right.
in Florida.
Yeah.
Ray ended up getting pinched over that. I guess he had one of those money check cash and loan stores,
Yeah.
and he was still shying out of there.
Yeah.
So they got him with that. They
Yeah.
got him with a few things, right?
We used to go down and see Ray. When we
Yeah.
went to Florida, we go down and spend
Yeah,
time with him.
he was a nice guy, funny old man. I got some stories from him. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about Al's demise,
Yeah.
if you don't mind talking about that.
Yeah, so Bruno, like I said, had a very charismatic guy, big money maker, big, he was a salesman in that type of life.
Yeah.
He was really good at putting things together, making connections with, he was well known throughout the Northeast, Florida. You go to Florida, I mean,
Very
it's
well known
everywhere
in
you go,
Boston.
everywhere.
Everybody knew Al.
Everybody, he had good, and he had a lot of outside influence. The inside influence in our city didn't really like him,
Yeah.
and that was really his demise.
Well, didn't he
because-
put a stink with me when I started to go down there, and I was seeing you and a few of the other guys down there?
As soon as you came up, I introduced you to him,
Yeah, I remember.
and he was on parole. He kind of backed up.
Yeah, he did.
And you said that you guys would meet properly.
Yeah,
be
at
introduced
another
properly
time.
at another time.
Yeah.
Soon after that, he was like, "Who's this guy how come I don't know this guy and we're going to be introduced properly? He wanted
Yeah.
to get to the bottom of that.
Right.
I don't know if it was the next day, but the next couple of days, he had me in Providence meeting with Louis. You know, he had me in Boston meeting with Freddie and those guys over there.
Right.
Carmen
Yeah.
and who's this guy Bobby and this and that and so, you know, wanting to get to the bottom of who you were and why you were in our area and, you know, what's the story with this.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, that's the type of guy he was. He
Yeah,
was, you know,
yeah.
which that is on his part.
Well, it's a
good to
proper
go
way
check
to a
out,
point,
you know,
but it sounds
you know.
like he went to a few more, a little more extensive than he should have.
With the I mean,
You know, he could
could've-
have just made a phone call to Boston and he would have known.
Where he had to go, yeah.
Yeah, well,
He had
that's-
me all over with him. I mean,
Yeah.
one day I think he had me in. I don't think he did have me in 4 states. And one day we were in New York. We were with Louis in Providence.
Yeah.
Then we was in our state, Mass.
Yeah.
We went to New York, and then
Mhm.
on the way back, we stopped. There was some guy that died in Boston. We were, you know, we stopped in Connecticut, and then we had to go to Boston for a wake. So he had
okay.
us like in 4. And one day I said, "How was that possible? You know, 4 different meetings in 4 different states, and all in one day. You know."
Well, I'm sure I know Al wasn't crazy about me poking my nose at around there.
Yeah, no. He was definitely interested in. You got his antennas up for sure.
Yeah, that was a good thing. That's
Yeah.
what I wanted.
Yeah. Well, obviously that was going to take place.
And I'm sure Louis didn't have anything good to say about me, but that's all right.
I don't remember what Louis said. Just that you know what they were going to say back then as far as
yeah.
with the patriarchs. I mean, you're their not enemy, but competition.
A
You were
competition,
doing
I
a
would
lot of
say, yeah.
money,
Yeah.
so obviously he couldn't like you.
No.
So who knows what their plans were? Just like, you know, who knows what your plans were really with them?
Well,
if they stepped on you stepped on their toes, where would it have went?
You know, and that, you know, it's the build-up. It's like anything else. Like we try to explain to them, when you're a cop, you're a boss. My faction was in Boston. The patriarchs weren't strong enough to push me out. And like I said, I grew up, I was friends with a lot of the patriarchs.
Right.
And I made money with them. I worked with a lot of them. You know, and
That helped you a lot, I bet.
yeah, it helped a lot. You know, I'm sure they weren't happy what I did. Nobody was. But I did what I had to do for myself.
Yeah.
You know, for my family. And I don't mind at all that I brought Joey up there and the Philly family with me. You know, that's just how things worked out.
Yeah.
I just wasn't getting along with the patriarchs, and I didn't want to answer to anybody. You know, I sent a few messages to Louis maybe I shouldn't have sent.
Right.
You know, I have all the respect in the world for the man, all when he was alive, you know, but now I could care less. But
Right.
at that time, I never disrespected Louis. But I felt we're Boston guys. The power was up there, and that's where that power had to stay.
Yeah.
You know.
And you had a good crew, decent
Yeah,
crew.
a lot of good
Yeah.
guys. A lot of good guys, and I
Good
had
back
guys
end
in
Philly.
Vernon,
Yeah.
in Connecticut.
Yeah.
Bobby Gentile, his
Yeah.
little crew. You know. So moving
You
on.
tried to have a couple in my area.
Yeah,
One ran away, and
Yeah.
every time you came up, he would run, and you couldn't find him.
yeah. That was too funny.
And
I don't
our
want to
other
get into
friend,
details
Bobby,
with them, but I
but
guess
Bobby was a good guy, DeMarco.
Bobby's a great
Great
guy.
He always would come up. He would tell you he was always on parole. You know,
Well, do you
every
know
time
what
he used
happened?
to
Did you
come
hear
up.
this story about Agawam?
I did.
Yeah, let me tell a fast story. So Bobby DeMarco had a party down at his house, and what was that bar room in Agawam? Do you
I
remember?
don't remember the name, no.
You know.
Yeah, I don't.
So I'm there with Tommy Caruso. He was a main guy in my crew. Tommy passed away now. And Bobby's girlfriend called from the bar room. I don't know why she was there. We leave the party. We all go in. And I got a little out of hand. I hit a guy with an ashtray.
Yep.
3 guys come over, jumped on me. We're fighting everybody. Bobby and Tommy had to come around the bar. That had that big 100-foot, 50-foot bar, whatever it was.
Right.
They got them off of me and caused a big ruckus in there. We're pulling out of my town car, and the cops were coming to the bar room. I hurt my leg in that fight, too, I remember. And we got to Bobby's house. Then they swarmed Bobby's house looking for us.
Yeah.
Me and Tommy were in the back.
And Bobby
It
was
too
on
funny.
parole.
Bobby was on parole, so
Right.
I hid, and Tommy was hiding in the back. You know, but eventually, Al Bruno had to straighten the
I was
beef
just
out.
going to say that.
Al went and
Al
straightened
Bruno knew the guy that owned the bar.
Yeah.
And straightened everything out so Bobby didn't get violated with the parole.
Right.
And the Bruno was good like that. So when I talk about Bruno was good in a lot of ways.
No, it was good he did that.
He did a lot of good. If there was a beef, something like that, he would help right away. Even though Bobby wasn't with him, Bobby was with the Puglianos.
Yeah.
So he was more, with the West Side, West Springfield, we call them.
Yeah.
West Side, West Springfield, or Springfield, West Springfield. There was
But no,
that.
Frankie Pug and them, weren't they patriarcha guys?
No, Frankie was Genovese.
Frankie was Genovese.
And Louis, his brother, was hanging around with, I don't think unless he got made now, he was going to get made with the patriarchs.
Okay.
See, the
All right,
Puglianos, they didn't like Bruno at all. Frankie didn't like him. They didn't like the Scibellis either. It was a Scibelli-Bruno faction.
Well, I know
And
that
Frankie
they were more to themselves, those guys.
Frankie was a serious gangster.
Yeah, I know that.
He was well known also.
Right.
Had a lot of friends in Boston, New York.
Yes, he did. Yes, he
And
did.
so when they killed Billy Grasso,
Mm-hmm.
they were there. Billy and Louis
Yeah.
were there with Gaetano killed them.
Yeah.
The guy Frankie was there, and Gaetano shot Billy, and that was when the crew, those guys from Boston were taking over, taking Raymond
Joe
Jr.
Russo,
and
Vinnie Ferraro. Yeah, they wanted that hit done.
So I guess Louis was going to get made after that with the Patriarchs. I don't
Okay.
believe he did. Maybe I'm wrong, but he could have.
Yeah.
But I know they got indicted soon afterwards. So I don't
Yeah,
think he
they
got
did.
made. And he ended up
That
getting
crew fell apart.
Yeah, he ended up getting life.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stories there with that because Bruno went to New York to have Frankie killed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't know if Frankie knows that, but
Oh, Frankie Pug?
Frankie Pug, because he was involved in the hit. I was there right when he went to bosses in New York.
Why would Al get involved with a patriarchal problem?
Because Frankie wasn't supposed to. He's a Genovese guy, and he was.
He didn't get
involved-
his permission
he
from
didn't
him.
get no permission from
Right.
to be on that hit.
Okay.
For-
Well, that's
So
understandable.
Bruno brought up a beef in New York on him.
Yeah.
And it got to the point so much that he had us laying on Frankie. There was a few routines, and I'm sure he knows that too, where he used to go walking every morning
Mm-hmm.
and getting spots, getting his laying on him, getting his
Right.
routine down.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in New York when he actually went there to put a beef on him to clip him over that.
Yeah.
Because it came out, don't forget when it came out, they were all locked up without bail.
Right.
So Frankie ended up, and Frankie's a great guy. Frankie ended up getting 12 years. The brother got life. His brother Louis got life.
Louis got life. Okay.
And then when Frankie came out 12 years later, this was around the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Bruno was the boss now. You see?
Yeah.
So Bruno put the beef in, wanted to clip him.
Right.
But Bruno wanted to clip a lot of guys.
Yeah.
That never got clipped.
Yeah.
But that was one of them right there. But yeah, so that was getting back with Bobby. When I was saying that about Bobby DeMarco,
Mhm.
when you went, that Bobby was going to look to put in your crew, straighten
Yeah.
him out, give
Yeah.
him the,
Well, see, Bobby came in through Bobby Garante.
prick the finger.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And he came in through Bobby Garante.
Right.
That's how I met Bobby DeMarco.
Well, Bobby was away with Ralph Natali.
Yeah.
And Ralphie really loved Bobby.
Well, Bobby's a good kid.
And Bobby's a great guy.
He is. He's a
But
great
Bobby
guy. I
did-
didn't mean to say kid. He's a good man.
And
Really
Bobby
good
just
guy.
got done doing 10 years.
Yeah.
And he really didn't want to.
He
And plus,
just-
he was really with the Puglianos.
Yeah.
So when you was coming up,
Yeah.
he was like, me and Freddie used to be like, go ahead, get your
Yeah.
butt in with these guys, we'll fucking, I'm with these guys, we'll fucking take over this whole area, we'll do it. So me and Freddie were kind of pushing him to do it. But he
Right.
was really with the Puglianos when he was
Right.
coming up. And
Well,
the
see, what-
Puglianos were coming up. He goes,
Yeah.
how am I going to do this? I've been Frank my whole life. And I'm
Yeah.
going to get... So when you were coming up afterwards, he kept telling me he was on paper.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
on paper, cuz I'm on paper.
It was too funny. Well, he knew that we had a pretty serious crew.
But the other kid was the one that
Oh,
we're
Joey.
going to put in, and he said, I did this in Italy, I did this in Italy. Bobby
Yeah.
had to tell him, stop telling these guys you did this in Italy.
Yeah, 'cause you're gonna do
these
this
guys
over
are
here.
gonna do this here, and
Yeah.
I'm not going to go do that over
Right.
here.
Yeah.
Okay? And then that's why every time you came up, the kid would run away, because that's how he was. He'd always run away when it came to this.
Well, they were going to be with Bobby Garante. So they were really his guys, And then Bobby got picked up. When Bobby got picked up, they fell on my lap. And I really like Bobby DeMarco. you
Bobby
know.
was a great guy. The other kid
Yeah.
was,
No, that other
all
kid.
mouth. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? He did
Yeah,
this,
he's
he
a
did
cacao.
this.
Yeah. Yeah.
We call him Cacazo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. That's what he was.
But
you know.
but it was so funny when you used to come up, and I ended up having to taking you out in the area. You and your
I
whole
ended up
crew.
with you. That's why.
Every time.
Every
You
time
know,
he
I'm
comes
supposed to go
out.
to this guy's restaurant.
Yeah.
He's never around.
Yeah.
And then you would come with me, and that's how you ended up meeting Bruno. You
Yeah.
know,
And then I used to send Bobby Gentile to go look for Joe. We couldn't find him.
couldn't find him.
Couldn't find him.
Unbelievable.
Among them missing.
Yeah.
But like I said, they weren't guys that came up with me. They,
No.
they were
Right.
Bobby Garanti's
Yeah.
guys. It's
And Bobby Garenti was as serious as they come.
Bobby
That's
was
a
a bad guy.
dangerous man.
That was a thing. And,
Yeah.
and if he proposes a guy to me, what am I going to say to Bobby?
But Bobby, see, here's
Yeah.
the thing. It wasn't, Bobby didn't know this kid.
Yeah.
Bobby was in prison with his father. And
Is
in
that what it
Walpole,
was?
he was with him.
Oh,
So
right.
he liked the father, and that's what.
So
and now
he
the
felt he
father
wanted
was
to
in
take the-
Italy,
the
so
son
he said,
under
yeah,
the-
you
wanted to
my
take
father,
under his
I
wing.
did this, and all that stuff.
Oh,
You know what I
right.
mean? But
Oh,
Bobby
yeah,
didn't
that's
know
right. I
that.
remember the kid's
Right.
father was
the
in
kid's
it.
father was in prison with him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so funny. That's so
But
funny.
so that was the but Bruno would do a lot. Getting back with Bruno, he would do a lot with you know, and again, organized crime. I mean, how do you become powerful in life without having, back in the Godfather movies, they had judges, politicians.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not saying you gotta corrupt them, but you still for favors. That's how you become powerful in life.
Listen,
But when you use it against that,
Yeah.
when you start using them as a weapon to put your enemies in prison,
that's the problem.
that's where
That's
the
what Whitey
problem is.
Bulger did. This is what these guys did.
And that's
they
what,
turned
right,
it.
and that's what
They turned it, and
you're
that's
worried about.
Ended up to be all their demises.
And Bruno's demise was not, he always had wanted to be the guy in the area. So
Yep.
he had a lot of enemies. He had the Felix and the Puglianos and all the other street guys that weren't even made guys, that were just always, they weren't with him. You know what I mean?
Right,
So
right.
when the beef came up with him, the kid Emilio, he was a
Mhm.
made guy. He was
Yep.
against them. And even though the Schibellis were with him, he turned on the Schibellis. He got Frank shelved,
Yep.
from boss to soldier.
Yeah.
Babbitt took over. He got Baba shelved. He started doing the same thing with Baba.
Yeah.
But Baba was too smart for him. He was going to put Anthony DeLavo there.
Right.
And Anthony DeLavo was going to be the boss, but they got pinched in that case. So now Bruno ends up getting. I was at the meeting when he got the official blessing that he was the boss. I was in New York, but then when they came up officially,
Mm-hmm.
they came up to his restaurant in Caramia.
Yeah.
And it was Pat DeLuca, Artie.
Yeah.
And there was a couple other guys. It was me, Joey Bazil was there, and Felix was there. And there was a lot of other people down the end of the table, and that's when they got word that Bruno was the guy up in our area. And he was you could tell that was the happiest moment of
Oh,
his
sure.
life.
Well, that's
And
what
because he always
that's what he
wanted that.
wanted.
You know,
He
and,
wanted that.
and it was great.
That was the
we were
brass
happy
ring for him.
Everybody
Yeah.
was happy for him. But as quick as that happened, it all turned with the extortions when they started coming with that low life there.
Mm-hmm.
Bologna.
John. Yeah.
I mean, right away, he was, then it got to the point where Artie went from this to this. He went from soldier to boss. Then he's got this guy in his ear. He's got Bologna coming up. And next thing you know, they're coming out seeing what's going on. They want to shake down the whole city. And we never did that.
The cheese man was lucky that John didn't get anything on him because
And-
John told me he was going up to Boston.
Carmen was
Yeah.
at Bruno's house all the time.
Yeah.
Every Sunday Bruno used to invite Carmen. John and me were there also.
Yeah.
Okay. After Bruno was dead, I was meeting with Carmen, with John Bologna there. We was going down